Welcome to the After Sass. This is the Critical Sass after show where I look at my makeup collection. I pull out things very similar to the new makeup releases. I put them on my face to show you and me that we probably don't need to buy the new makeup thing, even if it is really enticing to us. Because oftentimes we buy the stuff that we like and we are attracted to the stuff that we already have. If you ended up clicking on this before Critical Sass, go watch Critical Sass and come back here. The tonal shift is pretty vast. We're gonna be more chill here. In Critical Sass, I talked about the new Hue Drops from Glow Recipe, and I went on and on about how I love a rosy little glowy primer situation. And I was like, I don't know, could I ever, what could I ever, I never had such a thing in my whole life. This is in my makeup collection right now. This is from MAC. It's their strobe cream in the shade Pink Light. I know that the Glow Drops are sold as skincare. Most people I know that use it as a primer. And this is sold as a primer, and I don't need another step to my skincare. I have found that more recently my skin can't really handle a ton of different skincare, so I'll just use this instead. Here it is, just slightly blended out. This is like a very cult classic MAC product that they've sold for a really long time. I had a sample of this once from an order I made through MAC, probably an order just to buy Fix Plus, or maybe I got it like in a store, because the only product I really use religiously from MAC is Fix Plus. And I think that this is probably actually a better formula for my skin type. And I have oily skin, so sometimes the thicker kind of thing might not work as a primer for me. Now, I tend to really like stuff that's meant for dry skin. I don't think that the Hue Drops are meant to be for oily or dry skin. I'm just saying these are things I need to take into consideration, like my skin type. I think that this makes my skin look luminous without making it like wet. And I think the purpose of that product is to make your skin like really hydrated. I'm going to use a Sisley Blur Expert on my nose. In Critical Sass, I talked about Marsté, which is Marlene Estelle's new fragrance line. And I talked about how I think it's exciting that Marlene is like kind of getting into fragrance and launching something. The fragrance launch is maybe more exciting than Makeup Geek ever was to me, but Makeup Geek was like old news when I got into makeup. I just wanted to share that I bought a fragrance recently. I was watching a Lauren May fragrance video, and she was talking about vanillas, as she tends to do. She pulled out a fragrance from Lush, and I was like, Lush makes perfume? And I was going out with my friend literally that evening. We were going to the mall and I was like, can we go into Lush? So I went to Lush. The person who helped me, he was very helpful. Kristen said he was flirting with me. I don't think that's true. There was like at least a decade's age gap between our ages. So he walked us through a bunch of fragrances, and I wanted to smell the one that Lauren shared because the way she described it was like wild. And I was like, I have to smell that. The person who works at Lush, he was like walking me through all the other fragrances. And this wasn't even one that he was going to show me. This is their turmeric latte fragrance, and when I smelled it, it made me smile. Like, smelling fragrances, I'm like always like kind of just like, oh yeah, okay. I mean, we were using strips whenever we were smelling things together, but when I smelled this, it immediately reminds me, it sounds so weird, it reminds me of the smell of Play-Doh. And Play-Doh reminds me of my very long past grandmother. She was the only person when we were little that let us play with Play-Doh. I know a lot of people have different names for their grandparents, but we called her Grandma Play-Doh, not Grandma last name. We called her just Grandma Play-Doh. And then the other grandma I had, she was just grandma, but this is just like, it smells like her house. And it's so weird because she died when I was really young. Like, my concept of who she was as a person is so vague. The scent memory just takes me back to, and I've encountered Play-Doh since, and I've had a much less visceral reaction to actual Play-Doh, but this reminds me of her. It's so wild. So I had to buy it. It comes in a larger bottle, but I don't really need a new fragrance right now because this one makes me so happy. And luckily when I spray it on my skin, it maintains that Play-Doh-y scent. Whenever my roommate smelled it, they only could smell vanilla, and there is vanilla in here, but it smells just like Play-Doh to me. It doesn't smell warm-body at all. So I just wanted to share that. We're not going to talk about a new product and relate it to a current product. That's not what we're going to do in this portion of the video, which I know is what the After Sass is for. But I think more than I ever have in any one of my videos, I got compliments on my skin. And I'm not sure which primer I used. I think I used the Victoria Beckham primer when I was doing Critical Sass. But I'm going to tell you the other two products that I was using. I'm just going to wear them in this video. So the foundation I was wearing was this. This is the Patrick Ta foundation, and I have the shade 6, which is a really great match for me. I didn't do a dedicated video to this because I got it way late. This was a gift from Kelly Gooch. She went to an event and got a few in PR, and she had 2 colors that didn't work for her, and me and Lauren of Lauren Made Beauty, we got the 2 rejects, and luckily, both of the ones that we took actually work really well for our skin tones, so there wasn't a need to fight. And actually, before Lauren and I talked about the foundation on camera, we were just giving each other our own little mini reviews. I know that this product is very divisive, and I know that most people land on the side of they don't like this product, or there's someone who got it in PR and are like raving about it. I did get this for free, and so I'm trying to keep that in mind as I tell you, but I love this foundation. I love the glow. It's really weird. I know that some people, it makes them look really sweaty, and like that's how it looks. I think the powders that I do most of the time keep that really in check and give the glow that it's supposed to look like it's giving. I also don't think that this is going to be really good for people who have very textured skin or have a lot of like acne. I don't think it's going to work on that. And I also have heard that some people who are acne prone, this will really get your acne going. So this is certainly a flawed product. I talked a lot about Divine Daylight from Phytosurgeons, which is a product I really love, but I think it's a product that isn't really good for everyone, and not everyone's going to find a good use for it in their makeup collection. I feel very similarly about this foundation. It's a really good foundation for me, and I think it's going to be a really good foundation for some people because it works so well for me. But overall, I do really think that like this is something that if you can get a tester of it, try it that way and get a good understanding of it and how your skin will react to it and how it will wear on your skin before actually buying it. So I do really love this. I think I would buy it again based on my experiences with it so far. I choose to wear it a lot. What? I don't think this is a perfect product. And I think what this foundation and the reaction to it shows is kind of also like his eyeshadows is you really need to decide what's going to be worth it. You as a consumer need to really suss out people's preferences and what they usually like and whether or not that person's preferences are really going to work for you. So I'm just going to apply this. I've worn this in videos in the past. I've tested it on camera, but like I said earlier, like this is actually a foundation I like choose to wear, and I don't actually wear like a full pump of it. It's very little of it, and I think perhaps like that could also be where people are running into issues. I think kind of not like blaming consumers, but I also feel like when you're learning your makeup from beauty gurus, especially ones who are using beauty lights and full coverage foundations a lot of the time, they're using so much product, which is like way more product than it's going to look good on anyone. I get feedback a lot that a lot of times when I put on a blush that like it's hard to see on camera, but I'm putting on blush for if I would wear it in real life, which under these lights do kind of like eat some of the makeup. They're designed to make me look my best. And also, I think another thing to take into consideration with Critical Sass, in Critical Sass, my lighting was different. So I was in soft lit lighting, and like the lighting wasn't as bright for you to be able to like see everything. Like the purpose of the lighting doing Critical Sass is more of like a vibe. The purpose of lighting here is to be so you can be able to see my face and see what I'm doing, which is different. So like the low lighting in this foundation go really well. And also I think that low lighting also is going to make my skin just look glowier because like I was wearing highlighter, and we'll put that highlighter on later. I think this makes my skin look really good. I might have used a little bit of color corrector. My cheeks a little bit activated again. But even on that, I think it looks great. I love it, but I understand there's a lot of caveats to that. The reason I really haven't been talking about it is because I know it's been received poorly by a lot of people. And I just am like, I can like this thing, not like privately, like it's probably gonna be in my best of the year video. Like I feel like a lot of the stuff I ended up really loving this year has been not like controversial in the way like it's only worked for some people, and I happen to be one of the people that's really worked for. Well, I guess I don't really know how the Victoria Beckham concealer has been received overall. I feel like not many people tried it. That's an expensive product that people might not buy. And then the concealer I had on my under eye was actually this. This is from Ritual Defeat. It's the Lab Access version of their Creator Concealer. It's the Sorcery Concealer now. It's something, the real version of this exists, but it must be a little bit different. I'm not really sure. But my friend Andromeda, who is someone who did a collab with them earlier this year, Ritual Defeat, they said that it was very similar, the old version and the new version. And I trust them pretty implicitly when it comes to formula comparisons. I don't think that this has a shade in the new formula. This is, I think it was like Potion 110, but I think they have a different naming mechanism for the real release of it. And I also think that this concealer, it works really well for me. I think I really underplayed how much I liked it when I tried it because it was a lab access release. And we've talked about this many times on my channel. I'm allowed to love and use a product that you aren't able to buy. But it also was just kind of like one of those things where I just like tried to convince myself I didn't love it as much as I think I really do in order to, you know, just like move on from it. And I don't know. It's very interesting, but this was the skin combo. It is very glowy, but we are gonna ultimately eventually powder it. I'm gonna put on Spectral Shine in Divine Daylight from Phytosurgeons real quick, and then we will talk about highlighter. I lose this brush every time I put it back. Why can't I get my life together? For highlighter today, I'm gonna put on the same highlight I put on in Critical Sass for that video, but it does relate back to something we very briefly talked about in Critical Sass. So Armani released their new liquid highlighters, and I feel like I talked about them a while ago, but I think they were only released in Europe, but they're now finally available in the States. I checked, they're on Sephora's website. And they might be on their website too, but I was on their website looking for one of them to see if they were having a sale, and they are, but the eyeshadow I want is not available right now. It's out of stock. Liquid highlighter is something that I like more now than I ever have. And this one actually released earlier this year, and I feel like it was such a blip on the radar. And I actually think this is the only release that Viseart has had this year. So I hope everything's okay over there. Love you, Viseart. But this is their Artistique highlighter in the shade Frou Frou. And I think this was also adding to the glowiness of my cheeks. It has one of those sponge tip applicators, and I don't really care for that. And so what I'm actually doing is pouring it out onto a mixing palette first. We're doing a couple of steps because I think that the reason I know I like this highlighter. I knew I liked this highlighter even before putting it on for Critical Sass, but I think it took me, I didn't like applying it with a sponge at all, even to get started. And so I found that doing it this way was really the way to go. And it's a really soft glow, but it kind of looks like it's gonna be sparkly. It looks like it's gonna be a lot more punchy than it ends up being. It's just a really nice glow. And so I think this also was something that was really enhancing the effect of what you were seeing in Critical Sass, that glow that everyone was like, your skin looks so good. I think that it also had something to do with this. Okay, so I'm gonna contour and powder my face, and then we will be back to talk about some more products. I talked about two products from What's Up Beauty in Critical Sass. I talked about their new bronzer and their blushes, and those are going to be my reference points for the next two products. And for their bronzers, I talked about how I think that there is purple in their bronzers in order to make the bronzer not so orange and kind of add that to the mix. I also complained a little bit about them being swirled. That's not really the biggest deal to me, but it's something to keep in mind. It's going to vary a little bit from application to application. I really don't think it's going to be enough for the eye to notice, but it's just something to consider, because what if for some reason you end up getting one that has a lot of purple in the marbling? It could happen. You have no idea. It's you could buy it and it could be purple. But I have a bronzer in my makeup collection. It's not marbled, but I've had marbled bronzers that I've liked in the past. So again, not complaining too much about that. This is from Gucci. It is their Fair bronzer in the shade 1. And this is a perfect bronzer for me in my skin tone. Having light, fair, a little bit cool leaning neutral skin oftentimes means that bronzer is going to pull very, very orange on me. And this bronzer has a little bit of rosiness to it. And what that does is it makes it look much more natural on my skin, especially when I'm not trying to be a bronzed goddess. Having something to wear in the winter months, whenever that's not really what I'm going for. And honestly, most of the time that's not what I'm going for. But I do find that my bronzer preferences change in the summertime. I like something that has a little more warmth to it, mostly because I don't really go outside even in the summertime. And so I like to try to assimilate with other humans and be like, yes, I too see the sun sometimes, which is just factually not true. So that's the bronzer. And then when I was picking out blush, I was like, do I have any blushes that have multi-tones in it? And I do. And it's this limited edition blush from Chanel. It's the Blush Harmony in Mauve Beige. And I love this blush. If you've been around for any amount of time, you'll know that this blush is very fond of it. And it always pulls mauve, but maybe the beige does something. I've never really tried to like isolate the shades. I'm always just kind of like mixing them together. Gorgeous. And, you know, I like my little luxury moments. And I don't know about What's Up Beauty. And I actually really even don't know how much those blushes and bronzers cost. I might have said it, but like off the top of my head right now as I'm doing this video, I don't really know how much they cost. And I'm sure like I didn't even really like the packaging. But to be fair, I don't really care for Chanel's packaging. But, you know, it's like a little bit of a moment. It's a little bit of a flex. And so therefore, I enjoy it. But the real reason I love the Chanel blush is actually the color. And I didn't really care for any of the colors from What's Up Beauty. I thought that they were all kind of like very blah. And this is like a blush shade that I think at first glance looks like something you could find anywhere, but in reality, it's really hard to find like a cool toned bruisey mauve. And this is actually a little bit deeper, even for like something that has that cool toned mauviness. A lot of times it looks just gray, and I don't feel like this one looks just gray. Just want a little more. So now we're to eyeshadow. For the holiday season, eyeshadow is like what every brand is releasing. So I pulled out a couple of things. Viseart's releasing their Sireneuse Etendu. And I'm so happy that when I shared it in Critical Sass, the comments, everyone was like, no, Tom, that palette is beautiful. And I'm also attracted to it. I find that a lot of times when I talk about Viseart specifically, people are like, I don't care about Viseart, Tom. And I felt very vindicated that when I talked about that palette, everyone was like, no, that is pretty. And I was like, it is pretty and it is Viseart. And thank you for all agreeing with me. And I just want to take the time to thank you for agreeing with me. In Critical Sass, I talked about how basically in this palette, the stuff that I find interesting about it is the stuff that I already really like. It kind of looked like a myriad of palettes that I really like kind of smashed together. It looked a little bit like the Makeup by Mario palette that was released this year. It looked a little bit like the original Makeup by Mario at the Early Eyes palette. A duochrome in it, and like I like a little bit of a duochrome moment, but not something too much. And I feel like with Viseart, you're never going to get too much. So what we're going to do for the starting of my look is we're going to start with the Viseart Grand Pro 1X. This is a palette that I have not been paying much attention to for the second half of the year. And this is just a big palette of a bunch of mattes from Viseart. This is absolutely something designed for pro makeup artists, but it also helps scratch the itch sometimes for me whenever I want to play with a color or if I just need some very easy nudes. And normally if I do travel, I build myself a little bit of a palette and take that as opposed to taking a pre-made palette, because oftentimes there's just some single sparkles that I'm really interested in playing with. And if I want to have matte shadows, taking like 4 of these to use and like having some lighter and medium and deeper options to like really go from day to night is the way that I tend to like to go. So I'm going to use some of these neutrals. In Critical Sass, I talked about that duochrome and how it's such a common duochrome. I actually recently bought another eyeshadow that's in that duochrome. There's a lot of similar kinds of duochromes. This is like a duochrome that's very common. You find it in a lot of palettes, like the same kind of duochrome, but I specifically have the shade Solstice, which it looks a lot like. It's probably not exactly. The thing with these like red shifting green, shifting blue kind of shades is that there's going to be more of one of the colors than the other colors, and there's variances on that. But like there's also differences in finishes too. But I do think that this Urban Decay shadow is probably going to be pretty similar to the effect of the one from Viseart. I'm just going to do a very basic like neutral eye. It might be a little more cool leaning than what's in the Sireneuse palette, but that's okay. That's what I like. That's what I prefer. I didn't want to go too deep on the eyeshadows, so I used a little bit of Ash from Victoria Beckham to do like a little bit of a slight cute little wing, smudgy wing. I haven't done one of those in a while, so I wanted to throw that on. I kind of just stuck to the mid-tone cool tones in the Viseart palette because I feel like the Viseart palette that we were talking about in Critical Sass, I feel like those didn't go very deep, and I just didn't want to do something too smoky today. I know that's very uncommon for me and very unlike me. I am going to take Solstice. I'm just going to apply this with my finger, throw that on the lid. This is what I've been loving about Solstice, is that it's like soft and subtle. I'll zoom you in so you can see a little bit better. Look at it. So pretty. And I have to imagine that the Viseart one is going to give a similar effect. I'm going to finish the eyes with the Beyond mascara from City Beauty. This has just been the mascara that I have open and I've been enjoying using. I'm not actually done with the eyes. I did want to throw one more thing on. And this is actually in reference to the Rabanne gaudy packaging purse thing. I think Pat McGrath's packaging is also a little bit gaudy and over excessive and expensive. This is my custom Pat McGrath palette that I made. So it only has the special shades in it that I really love. And I'm just going to throw one of the sparkly ones on the inner corner, just real quick. Someone actually went back and commented on the video in which I destroyed all my Pat McGrath palettes to make this palette. And they asked if I actually use them more now that they are in this palette as opposed to being in many palettes. And the answer is yeah. Do I still use them as much as I probably thought I was going to? No. But definitely more than I would have if they all maintained in their palettes, because I wouldn't know where they were, because the Pat McGrath palettes are all in the same packaging and I just wouldn't know how they were labeled. This all brings me to the grand finale, which is lipstick. So my lip is a little bit split. So this product is not going to wear very well, but that's mostly my lip's fault. That's not the product we're about to talk about. I complained about the Lisa Eldridge lipsticks and how basically, I'm not interested in Lisa Eldridge products, but I do like the idea of refillable stuff. But I did commend her for releasing the refills with the actual launch so that people could buy one of the forever cases and then buy multiples of the refills and, you know, kind of live through that whole thing. But I also criticized her and many brands for launching something that is refillable and then never really following up, meaning I think that her whole range should be in that refillable component thing as opposed to the way that it is now. But someone did leave a comment on Critical Sass and said that's kind of like where she's headed. I know that she has stock of the stuff in the original packaging, but I would assume that on restocks, they will come out in the refills. I think that's what she should do. I also said that West Atelier is a brand that suffers the similar thing where they make their package refillable, but they never release refills. Now, the lipsticks just kind of came out, but you can pull this out. And this looks like something that you could recycle. I don't know. The brand hasn't said anything about it. It's magnetic. It's easy. It's easy to put in and take out. So I don't know. But like Western Atelier has promised refills on other packaging of theirs. This is in the shade Rue, by the way, their lipstick in Rue. That's why I was like, I'll believe it when I see it to Auric about their refills for their face palette. I don't know that it really goes with his eye look, but I guess it doesn't not go. It's just so much more than the eye, but that's okay. It could be the feature. I like the packaging of this. It's nice and weighty, and that's what I've heard about the Forever component from Lisa Eldridge. It's just like, when are we going to get the refills for this? Anyway, that wraps up the After Sass. I think I showed you today that you don't need to buy all of the new stuff to scratch the itch of the thing that you are lusting after. I still think that the Viseart palette's really pretty, but like, I think I really didn't need it in Critical Sass. Like, I think I talked myself out of it enough in Critical Sass that I like don't think that I need it. But also doing this, I'm like, that's very pretty, but also I don't even know that the way that I put this look together is the way that I would put it together in the future, because Solstice I really like to slap over a cream eyeshadow, like a cream matte shadow stick, and then call it a day. And then that's a look. But it is really pretty. If you are new to my channel, thank you so much for watching. starting on Thanksgiving, I'm going to be posting every day for 5 days to get us through the cyber weekend. It's going to be the 5 days of no buys. What I'm going to be doing is a lot of like what I did in this video, where I'm going to be putting on makeup that I already have in different ways, following along to tutorials, trying to recreate looks from my friends, trying to recreate some of my own looks. So if that sounds good to you, I would love to have you subscribe. The general vibe here is that I try to help myself and help you be more discerning about the purchases that we're making when it comes to makeup, but you can also apply these tactics and skills to clothing, fragrance, and other things that you might overspend in. I got into this work because I was someone who used to very much overspend on makeup and got myself into quite a bit of debt. And I'm trying to dig myself out of that and help guide myself and you to, or steer you away from it so it doesn't happen to you. So I'd love to have you stick around. Make sure you like this video. I have channel memberships and a Patreon over there. I do an additional video for everyone every month. It's kind of like pay what you want if you'd like to pay, but if you don't want to or can't, no worries. That's just a different way to support me. It's not necessarily a better way to support me. I'm happy you're here commenting, liking, and sharing my content. That's the best way to support me or any other content creator on this platform. But if you happen to be a patron or a member, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. I will have a video for patrons and members. It might go up December 1st for November. Sorry. So sorry. But we're going to be making cheesecake together. And I'm going to be talking and sharing thoughts and et cetera, as I do. Famously. As I do. I chat, we talk, and it'll be fun. So I hope to see you there. And yeah, I'll see you on Thanksgiving. So also, if you need a friend to hang out with on Thanksgiving, that video will be going live, but like all my other content is live. I'm here for you. I know that Thanksgiving or just like holidays in general can be tough for people when you feel forced to be around your family, or if you don't have any family to be around. It's the feeling of loneliness can vary in ways, but be experienced by many. So if you need a little bit of escapism that day, if that day makes you feel any kind of way, I'll be here for you. And so will all of my videos I've ever made. So you can watch them, you can watch the new ones or whatever. So yeah, anyway, thank you so much for watching. Remember to follow your hope and you'll find me, and I'll see you in a video very soon. Go forth, tits out.